Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now,
We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Friday, April 6, 2024, coming up on Roland Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Folks, a lot of people not at all happy with Charlamagne, the God, because of his commentary regarding DEI on The Daily Show. I'm going to deconstruct what he said and also be joined by Randy Bryant, DEI disruptor. A Black Mississippi woman could lose custody rights to her children nearly a year after an Indianola police officer shot her then 11-year-old son in the chest. The family attorney will be joining us to discuss this unbelievable case. The Black jobless rate climbed sharply in March, with Black women seeing particularly large drops in employment and overall labor force participation. Economist Morgan Harper will be with us. Also on today's show, our Education Matters segment, a math intervention program that uses hip-hop music to enhance math skills. You say, really? Yep, we're gonna break it down for you. That more. It's time to bring the funk. Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Folks, May 20th of last year, Nakayla Murry's life changed drastically when an Indianola police officer, Greg Capers, shot him in the chest. At the time, he was 11 years old. The officer was responding to a domestic disturbance call. Now, it was bad enough that Capers did not face any charges related to the shooting, but guess what? Adirian's mother, Nakayla, will be before a judge, folks, on child neglect charges as a result of the May incident. Yeah, seriously. We're absolutely confused by all of this. I'm sure you are as well. Joining us now is Carlos Moore, the family attorney. Carlos, glad to have you here. So I'm confused. How is the mother facing neglect charges when there was a disturbance and the cops were called and her son gets shot? How was she neglecting?
Roland, I'm just as confused as you are. I've been practicing law for 22 years. I've never seen such absurdity in my entire career. I mean, she is a perfect, outstanding mother. She has been raising these kids as a single mom for all these years with no problems, and now because a reckless cop shot her son, she risks losing her children. And so we're going to fight vehemently in court on April the 17th for her to retain custody. But it makes no sense. We believe it's retribution for her filing the lawsuit, the multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the city of Indianola and the officer. It's just harassment.
So I'm looking at this here. Go, guys, pull it up. It says on count one that on or about May 20th, 2023, in the county, per reporter, a child, Nakayla Murry, got hurt because of the domestic violence between the mother, Nakayla Murry, and her boyfriend, John Nolden. On Saturday, May 20, 2023, John jumped on Nakayla. Nakayla called her family member and they called the police. The police went over to the home. Somebody came running out of the home and the police shot. The reporter was unsure if the police thought it was John. The reporter stated that this was a result of the mother and boyfriend domestic violence that had been happening for years. John assaults the mother in front of the kids. The reporter wanted someone to check on the children because something worse can happen next time. Okay, I'm still utterly confused by here. So they are blaming Nakayla for being beaten?
That's what it sounds like, and she was not even beaten on May 20th. She let the ex-boyfriend, the father of her daughter, in, and he was becoming more and more irate, and she knows how he gets when he's fully angry. So before he could get fully angry, she threw the phone, or passed the phone to her son and told him to call the police, thinking that that would be protecting the family instead of escalating the situation. She had no idea the police would come in and shoot her child in the chest. And so John Nolan had not hit her. He had not hit her, but she was trying to avoid him becoming more irate and doing something later. So she called the police, or had the police call.
And again, I'm sitting here reading this, and the reason I'm completely confused, because they also say in count one, again, pull it up, please. They also say in count one, as they're describing what happened, they said the police went over to the home, quote, somebody came running out of the home and the police shot. One, this is nuts. We actually saw the body cam footage. When the officer came into the home, he was ordering people to come out of the room. The young man, Adarian, the young boy, Adarian, he walks out. He didn't come running out. This officer reflexively fired the shot at him. We actually saw it. So who's actually saying they just came running out and the cop thought it was John?
I believe it's a nosy neighbor that does not know what he or she is talking about. They were not there, and clearly they did not see the boyfriend or ex-boyfriend beating Miss Murray, so that's a lie. And so I don't know why we would have a case based on somebody's allegations that was not there, who was not an eyewitness.
And so was this report, it says here it was Sunflower County, and the prosecuting attorney is Gwendolyn Jemison. So is this who's pursuing this? I'm just trying to understand what's going on here.
Yes, Gwendolyn Jemison is the county attorney. She is the youth court prosecutor, and she is the one that is will prosecute this case and is pushing it. And so I believe she needs to turn back. She needs to think carefully about what she is doing and pursuing, because this is unjust. This lady has suffered enough, and she does not need to add insult to injury. Yeah, she's a county prosecuting attorney. We're on the website, and that's her photo right there, because on the website there's no photo. In fact, her photo is the only one that's not there. So it's sort of like how you got everybody else, but you don't have her. So so is she the one pursuing? So, like, whose decision is it to pursue this? I understand from my client that Child Protective Services told her that no case would be open, and then they called her back shortly thereafter, a few weeks, and said it would be open, but they were not pushing it. They interviewed everybody and saw that she was a fit mother, so we don't know if it's the prosecutor pushing it or whoever this alleged reporter or accuser is, if they are pushing it or what, but we're going to get down to the bottom of it, and we expect her to remain the mother and to continue to have custody of her children. We did reach out to Gwendolyn Jemison. She did not respond to us. So does she have a boss, or is she the decider as to who to pursue these cases? She is an elected county prosecutor, so the citizens are her bosses, and so they could vote her out of office if they're not pleased with her actions. All right, call us more. We appreciate it, bro. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Roland. I want to bring in my panel right now to try to make sense of this. Michael Imhotep hosts African History Network show out of Detroit. Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi. Kelly Bethea, communication strategist out of D.C. Matt, what the hell?
Yeah, this is really stupid. This is a prosecutor using her power the wrong way. One thing I wanted to break down for the viewers very quickly, the law in Mississippi is apparently the same as here in Texas. And to take away somebody's parental rights, the judge has to be shown or has to find by clear and convincing evidence that it's in, quote, the best interest of the child. The reason I tell you that is termination of parental rights is one of the civil actions, so meaning not criminal, where at least in Texas, you're entitled to the appointment of a lawyer. So these are very serious cases, obviously trying to take a child away from their parents, and even more than that, trying to take away the parent's right to be the child's parent legally. So that means that their relationship is legally severed. I tell you all of that to say, what I see very often with CPS cases, which is the same thing we call it here, a lot of times the prosecutors are motivated by the same political things that motivate, sometimes criminal indictments and sometimes just seeking justice against people in a high-profile situation. And here, this is absurd. The idea that there's nothing tying the mother and the mother's alleged neglect in this situation to her son is stupid, especially because what they usually do in these cases is they investigate whether the claims by the reporter are actually true. And it sounds like Attorney Moore was saying whomever reported this got the date wrong, got the information wrong, so the grounds on which the judge could terminate her rights, it doesn't sound like there's an evidentiary basis. But the biggest part of this is that clear and convincing evidence sits between what you need to prove a car wreck and what you need to prove somebody guilty of a criminal offense. It's a very high burden. And for them to even bring this case makes no sense, because normally what CPS does is they'll do what's called a safety plan. They'll institute a safety plan to make sure the child is safe, that the parents are taking whatever remedial actions they think are appropriate. They don't jump all the way to trying to take a child away from a parent whom they've had no prior contact with. And what I thought he said was especially important in this case is CPS is the agency that determines whether the child is safe or unsafe, right? But the prosecutor is the one to whom they bring the evidence. So generally, if CPS is saying, we don't think there's a case here, the prosecutors don't go forward with the case. So it makes me wonder whether this prosecutor has some reason to be advancing a case that the agency itself doesn't think should be advanced, because that's not normally what you see. But the bigger issue is this woman's child was shot, and the whole world now knows her son was shot. It doesn't make any sense to try to then, die on this hill where you take away her parental rights, which are among the most important rights you get as a person legally, right? The right to legally have a relationship with and parent your child. So I don't know how she thinks she's advancing any cause of justice with this. And I would hope that someone in her office counsels her to let this case go.
I'm just sitting here, Kelly, absolutely confused in how you can read this count and they blame the mother, saying the mother is putting the child in harm's way because of the actions of this man. I mean, we know the reality, the history of domestic violence. We know women that have stayed with boyfriends or spouses who have been the victims of domestic violence. So you blame her, not him?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't blame anybody in this situation per se, except the cop that shot the 11-year-old boy, because the cop is the one who presented the danger. As if I recall correctly, based off of what I just heard from the counselor, as well as what I've read, she was being proactive in calling the police to protect her child from this man who had yet to do anything. But because he had a history of it, she was being proactive in ensuring the safety of her child. And the person whose job is to also ensure the safety of citizens actually endangered the safety of that child. In fact, he jeopardized it by shooting the 11-year-old boy. So that in and of itself is bad policy on behalf of the prosecuting attorney, because it sets bad precedent. What does it say about the office that they are going to try and strip away the parental rights of a woman who, by all accounts, was doing what she was told is what she was supposed to be doing in situations like this? You call the cops before things get out of hand. You follow commands. You abide by what's happening. By all accounts, the family did that, yet and still, this little boy almost died because of an extension of the attorney's office being law enforcement. So it's more aggravating than it is confusing, because it just seems like a bad policy precedent to accuse and basically demonize the mother for something that a police officer did.
Michael, I mean, I'm sitting here like flabbergasted at this in terms of what happened here. And I'm just sitting here going, okay, so this makes no sense. And I still go back to the shooting. I don't know how in the hell nothing happened with this officer. We saw it. He is ordering people out of the room, and the moment he sees this boy, boom.
Right.
I still don't know how this guy does not, just doesn't get, not even if he doesn't get prosecuted. I wouldn't want that cop with a gun with what happened there.
Well, first of all, this was a crazy case, and we've talked to Attorney Carlos Moore a number of times on this case. So thanks to him for coming back on. Thanks to you, Roland, for continuing to shine a light on this case. And we saw the body cam footage last time he was on, and Adarian Murray was following police commands to come out, and he comes around the corner. He's in the house. He comes around the corner and gets shot. Okay, so we're still trying to figure out why was he shot? What happened there? So it was definitely recklessness by the police officer. But now to file a lawsuit claiming that the mother put the son in harm's way, and the petition says the witness, this unnamed witness, who says that the boyfriend, the former boyfriend, because they're not in a relationship now, the former boyfriend have been beating her for years. Ex-boyfriend John Nolden, to say that the shooting of Adarian Murray was as a result of that, as opposed to the result of a reckless police officer, is still strange enough. It's strange. It's even stranger. I would want to know who this unnamed witness is, and I want to see that unnamed witness cross-examined as well, because something is wrong here. And it very well could be retaliation for the $5 million lawsuit that the mother has filed against the city of Indianola, Mississippi. So more crazy things happen in this case. So we'll have to see how this turns out. But the other thing, lastly, was John Nolden ever arrested for assaulting the mother?
Not to my knowledge. So, but it goes to show you how crazy this is. So this prosecutor, Gwendolyn Jemison, you got some answering to do. So we will hopefully this does not move forward. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. I got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to stay in Mississippi about how the Department of Justice is overseeing a department there when it comes to notifying the next of kin. You would think that's basic, but the DOJ has to get involved. So we'll talk about that. March jobs report also on the show. In addition to, I'll talk about DEI, Charlamagne the God on The Daily Show, but also the constant attacks that we're seeing all across the media, namely from white conservatives. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. People can't live with them, can't live without them. Our relationships often have more ups and downs than a boardwalk roller coaster, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Trust your gut. Whenever your gut is like, this isn't healthy, this isn't right, I don't like the way that I'm being treated. This goes for males and females. Trust your gut, and then whenever that gut feeling comes, have a conversation.
Knowing how to grow or when to go, a step-by-step guide on a next, A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Near Mississippi's capital were buried in a pauper cemetery without their relatives' knowledge. The U.S. Department of Justice will help the city's police revamp policies for performing next of kin death notifications, which is sort of crazy. The DOJ found lack of timely next of kin death notifications resulted in deceased individuals receiving paupers burials in unmarked graves in Hinds County. That's where Jackson, Mississippi is. The Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Mississippi will provide technical assistance to examine JPD's, Jackson Police Department's, General Order on Missing Persons, as well as the new General Order on Death Notifications, and then recommend implementation and training for the Hinds County Coroner's Office. They will receive recommendations on policies and training for locating next of kin. I don't understand, Michael. You need the federal government to come from D.C. to say, here's how you notify that the loved one has passed away.
Yeah, Roland, this really sounds like some incompetence here, and possibly some indifference as well. This is the first I've heard of something like this. Usually with a job like this, just training. You know, I used to work in a job where we did work with the coroner's office here in the county of Wayne, which is the county that Detroit is in. And there's the medical examiner's office. So there's training that you go through with those various jobs, even if you're on the truck that goes out and picks up the dead bodies. There's training that you go through, and there's a process that you go through in notifying the next of kin, okay? So you learn that. Basically, anybody knows that if they worked at a medical examiner's office. So for the U.S. Department of Justice to have to come in and teach these people how to notify the next of kin is really strange. But there's an irony also here, because these former Confederate states always are against the federal government coming in and intervening in their affairs. And now their incompetence is being exposed, and the federal government has to come in and intervene in your affairs. So hopefully this malfeasance will be corrected. But this is some more nonsense coming out of Mississippi.
I mean, Kelly, really? I mean, if I'm the mayor of Jackson, Chokwe Lumumba, I'm cussing everybody out with the police department, saying y'all embarrassing the hell out of me by having to call in DOJ because y'all Simple Simons don't know how to actually track down the damn next of kin.
I mean, I would be really surprised if he hadn't already cussed these people out. He gives me that vibe of, letting everybody know exactly what's on his mind. But nevertheless, I cannot recall a time where, by and large, Mayor of Jackson notwithstanding, that the powers that be in Mississippi gave a damn about Black bodies, living or dead. So seeing something like this, reading about something like this is not all that shocking and surprising to me. If anything, it's just furthering the disappointment I have in the government of Mississippi and Mississippi as a state as a whole. It is unfortunate that, they cannot, undig their heads from, prior to 1865 and realize that Black people are citizens, whole citizens, and that we matter, and that we have families who care about the loved ones who have passed away. Certainly, we would want to know when they pass away and where they are buried. And clearly that's not the case with the people who need federal support in learning how to do that.
I just don't. I have no words, Matt.
Well, my fellow panelist had the best words, but I'll tell you, Michael, this is indifference. This is not incompetence. Seems like a pretty simple thing to be able to do, and most government agencies have some mechanism for doing this. I think the positive part of this, though, is even though it's not DOJ's purview to do it, I think it's very smart for the Civil Rights Division to come in and to provide this information and to basically get the political benefit of saying, well, you guys are either not doing this or are inept at a point where you can't do this basic function. So we're going to show you how to do it and implement the best practices. And I don't say that to be cynical. I say it to say that's what we should hope for, is that some government agency steps in where they see a lapse in service and they provide services to the people that need it. But this, I think, shows indifference because most government agencies have a way to do this, to track this down. And, they give a pauper's funeral when they really cannot find the person. But I suspect basic efforts would allow them to do that here. So I'm glad somebody is doing it to give these families some semblance of dignity when they lose someone.
And I'm going to keep reminding people who somehow forget this. There is a stark contrast between the Biden-Harris Department of Justice and the Trump-Pence Department of Justice.
Right.
Under Trump and Pence, first Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr made it clear that they felt that there was too much federal intervention in local police departments because that was hurting the morale of the police officers. They literally said that. They didn't want patterns and practices investigations. Under Trump-Pence, there was one patterns and practices investigation of local police departments. There's almost a dozen under the Biden-Harris Department of Justice. Now, I think Attorney General Merrick Garland has been slow as hell, obviously on the prosecution of Donald Trump when it came to these January 6 rioters, things along those lines. But I dare say that this, and y'all have heard me say it before, this Civil Rights Division led by Kristen Clark, formerly head of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, is the most aggressive Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice since Robert F. Kennedy was there and they were dealing with Klansmen and the attacks on African Americans during the Black Freedom Movement. And so folk need to understand that when you are making your decision as to who you vote for, this is a part of it because the president picks the attorney general. And the policies of the president and the attorney general is what is carried out in the Department of Justice. So feel free to mess around come November, but I can tell you right now that a Donald Trump Department of Justice will not at all care about Black lives, Black folks who have been beaten, Black folks who have been left in paupers' graves. They will not care. So take that under advisement when you go vote. All right, when we come back, jobs report is out in March. We'll break down exactly what those numbers look like overall for African Americans. And y'all know the right wing is already losing their mind. Matter of fact, they've been beside themselves for almost, 3 years. Don't forget, support us in what we do. You can join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to cover the stories that we do. So please support us. Allows for us to also with our staff and everything that involves with doing this show, but not just this show, the network, of course, Roger Muhammad's Daily Show. We've got weekly shows from Deborah Owens, Jackie Hood Martin, Stephanie Humphrey, we got Dee Barnes, Dr. Greg Carr, plus, of course, Roland with Roland, our long-form interview show as well. And so your resources go a long way to making all of that happen. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And don't forget to get the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Back in a moment.
Terry and I, we couldn't play in the white clubs in Minnesota. It felt like such a, strength through adversity type moment that I think Black people just have to go through. We have to figure it out.
Right.
We make lemons out of lemonade. But there's a reason we rented a ballroom, did our own show, promoted it, got like 1,500 people to come out. Clubs were sitting empty. They were like, "Where's everybody at?" And they said, "They're down watching the band you wouldn't hire." So it taught us not only that we had the talent of musicians, but we also had to have the talent of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a seat at the table. It's like, no, let's build the table.
That's right.
We got to build the table. And,
that's right.
And that was the thing. And of course, after that, we got all kinds of offers.
Of course.
Right, to come play in the clubs. But we didn't do it.
You like, no, we good.
No, we're good. We're good. And that's what put us on a path of national. And of course, when Prince made it, then it was like, okay, we see it can be done.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Farquhar, executive producer, Proud Family. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. First Friday of every month is when the jobs report comes out, and the first quarter ended with an increase in job creation. The workforce saw 303,000 jobs added, despite high interest rates, inflation, and growing household financial stressors. Now, the overall unemployment rate dropped 0.1 of a point, going from January 3.7, went up to 3.9 in February, down to 3.8 in March. The unemployment rate for African Americans soared over a point, while the rate for Black women saw a dramatic jump. But so you see, January was 4.8 for Black women. In February, it dropped to 4.4, and it went up to 5.6 in March. Now, when it comes to Black men, this is what the rate looks like. January is 5.3, February 6.1, March was 6.2. Morgan Harper from the American Economic Liberties Project joins us right now. So, okay, Morgan, you went through the numbers. Break it down for us. What happened?
Yeah, so we did see, as you mentioned, this exceeding of expectations in terms of overall job creation, 300,000 jobs created versus, about the 200,000 that were forecasted. That's a good thing. But then we start breaking down these numbers a little bit, and I'll say in the positive category though. So that's positive in the overall number. Then we also saw that wage growth stayed consistent. Wages aren't increasing greatly. So that's making a lot of folks feel like, okay, we're not seeing the inflationary pressure, because if wages were going up, then there would be the risk that employers are also going to have to start increasing prices to cover those increased labor costs. So that's feeling steady as well. And so, overall, the health of the economy is strong. But as you were saying, you break down the numbers a little bit, the picture among Black Americans is quite different. We are not seeing that same level of unemployment drop, the overall level being about 3.8%, but the increase, especially among Black women. And that's kind of interesting because, like I said, I mean, the job growth has increased. We have 3,000 jobs that were created. If wages are also increasing, those jobs are getting filled, but it doesn't seem that they're being filled by us. And, it's hard to conclude anything too much from just 1 month to 1 month in comparison. We have to continue to monitor this, but it is not a good sign if the rest of the country, white, Hispanic, Asian, is going in the direction of having higher employment rate and labor force participation, and we're actually seeing increase in unemployment and people just dropping out of the labor force altogether, which for this month was the trend among both Black women and Black men.
And so going through the report, where did we see the most job growth in terms of sectors?
So we're seeing that this job growth was being fueled by leisure and hospitality, government, and the healthcare sector. And that's what's also interesting. I mean, I don't know what you think, Roland, but I would have expected that those would be sectors where we would see more employment within our community. And so, again, I mean, it's just 1 month. Sometimes the job growth numbers, even that overall number of 300,000, is adjusted based on what the report says. In this day, next month they might have to forecast that down a little bit. But that is a little bit surprising to me, and I haven't seen anything with someone that has a very compelling explanation of what's going on there. But with those sectors driving a lot of this growth versus like professional services, for example, that is not seeing growth. That was seeing just very, very small increase. But having the hospitality, leisure, having government and healthcare all being the drivers of this job growth, and we're still seeing Black unemployment going up, is problematic.
One of the things that I saw there was some conservative who was whining. He was like, 0 manufacturing jobs were created in March. All of the stuff that Biden is doing, and I was like, wow, so you skipped over the 303,000 and you went right to that one. Really?
Yeah, and in the top line number, of course, that's quite relevant here, especially when we're looking at the outcomes from this administration, is that there have been over 15 million jobs created. Let's not forget that in the depths of 2020, we saw that there was, in 2020, when there was a different administration at the helm, over 16% levels of Black unemployment. And so, that's a bit disingenuous. Just because we're not seeing growth in that sector compared to last month isn't some kind of indictment of the overall economic strategy here. But again, we do need to continue to watch not only the discrepancies with Black workers versus the rest of the country, but also some topics we've discussed before, the amount of debt that people are taking on, record levels of credit card debt, that also, small businesses that are maybe taking on debt, auto loans. These are all sectors that are starting to see higher levels of charge-offs, delinquencies, and could be a source of instability in the economy if the trends were to continue.
But here's the thing that always cracks me up, and this is one of those quirks about our economy, is when folks go, ooh, Americans are buying stuff. Consumer confidence is soaring. They're using credit cards. But when they start saving money, people are saving money. That's bad for the economy. I think people have to understand that literally the psychosis of the American economy is spend, 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 spend. Do not save and invest. It trips me out all the time. When you listen to these financial networks and you listen to these folks talk about the economy, they really freak out when people save their money and don't spend it all.
Yeah, I mean, we have a consumerist mindset here in America, and especially if you're the ones that are benefiting from large corporations having people spend a lot of money, which is a lot of the folks that are investing professionally that are on these shows and some of the financial press and networks. Well, then, yeah, you want people to definitely keep spending. But, here what we're seeing is actually consumer saving and the household balance sheet is pretty steady. And I agree. I mean, that's a good thing. Yes, there was some fiscal stimulus that came at the beginning of the administration that everybody said, oh, this is going to, bring down the economy, and certainly maybe a factor, that contributed somewhat to inflation. But people were responsible with that money. They have managed their finances in an appropriate way. But like I said, the credit card debt is a big deal, and seeing this level of credit card debt burden is something that we do need to continue to watch, because $1 trillion is no joke. So yes, people seem to be continuing to have strong savings, but there is a lot of debt that is being taken on, and just need to see if that's going to continue to present a risk for our overall state of the economy.
So one of the truly crazy people in America, the MAGA idiot Maria Bartiromo, she always loses her mind this time every month when the jobs report drops. And I got a kick out of this one because they were complaining about interest rates and the jobs report. Listen to this.
It's a good number, no question.
Well, it's a good number, but is it too good for rate cuts, Bob Dahl? I mean, yesterday we heard from Neil Kashkari saying, I'm penciling in 2 cuts, but there's a chance there's no cut at all. If the economy's on fire like this and we got 303,000 jobs in the month of March, why cut interest rates?
So it's like, oh my God. So just correct me. So they complained about inflation, but now this is what it looks like when Fox talks. This is what it looks like.
Well, exactly, because I mean, the argument is like, oh, we got to get the interest rates lower. We got to get the interest rates lower to support business growth, the business community. The business growth is happening. People are getting loans. We have people from banks, large banks, that are saying that they are giving resources to entrepreneurs because they feel strong about the economy. The titans of industry no longer think that a recession is around the corner. And so this idea that, oh, if only interest rates would become lower, then what? The stock market would have its second biggest record, biggest day on record. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, what is the indicator left that you're ready to see improve? It's a strong economy. Now, prices are continuing to be a bit high. I mean, there is still an inflationary environment that we're in, but it is nowhere near where it was in the depths of the pandemic. And I do think that, and we've talked about it. I mean, we need to continue to watch some of these other indicators just of the debt. As someone who previously worked at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that's an area that I'm always very focused on. But from every traditional indicator, especially that the business community is worried about, the economy's booming, and there's really no source of complaints, except for if you're on Fox News and you got to find something to hate on, I suppose.
Last question before I go to my panel, and that is when we're looking at this report, we're talking about the economy, and when you talk about those prices, these corporations are still jacking prices up. One of the things that one of the critics say, well, these are simply jobs that were just gonna get replaced because of the pandemic. But that's not true.
So they're saying that in response.
Well, no, they're saying you can't credit Biden, Harris, you can't credit anybody else because these are just jobs that were that were just going to come back regardless after the pandemic when people got laid off. Now,
and that's just true. Yeah. I mean, even adjusting for the job loss that happened during the pandemic, we are seeing increased rates of job creation compared to pre-pandemic times. So, those folks really need to pay attention to the data. And overall, I mean, we're not just talking about, today we're talking about the jobs report, but there are a lot of other things that are being done to also address inflation that will take a little bit of time to come to fruition. Example, I don't know if you all have already discussed, that NAR settlement that happened, the National Association of Realtors, and just like brokers' fees and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's an area that now we know the Department of Justice is looking into, about how much money, people might have been losing in just the selling of a home, and especially if you're, if you're in the business of flipping homes, or if you have multiple properties, like that can add up, right, over the course of your life in terms of how many fees you're paying. To have the Department of Justice saying that they filed a statement of interest, and there was just a ruling today that they're going to be able to perhaps continue to investigate that, building off of what happened in that plaintiff's case, that's a big deal. That we have the Federal Trade Commission that's looking into how hotels are maybe using these algorithms to raise prices, and that every time you go on a trip or have to, travel somewhere to explore some other business opportunity, regardless, what you're up to, that could be increasing your prices. So we've seen already the efforts over the past couple of years to bring prices down are effective. How do we know inflation's down to just about, between 2.5, 4% based on, different estimates, which isn't exactly at the 2% that's the goal, as the Fed has stated, but there's more work to be done. But some of it isn't entirely in our control if some of these big corporations that have a lot of market power just want to do whatever they can to disgorge as much income as possible from Americans.
Questions. Kelly, you first.
Sure. So I understand regarding these numbers, they're really a reflection of the month before. And I also understand that there has been an increase of discussion regarding DEI within the last month. So it might not be that much of a correlation, but I am curious what you think about the possible correlation between the discrepancy of increase of jobs amongst Black people and the talk about removing DEI policies from corporations and the like.
That's interesting. I mean, I think that's a valid point to bring up. To me, though, I would imagine a lot of the types of businesses that tend to care more about DEI and have that in part of their hiring practices are in the professional services sector, which is one of the areas where we said the growth there has been a little bit more stagnant, so isn't likely driving the numbers that we're seeing today. Seeing some of the growth that it's more in hospitality, leisure, in education, and healthcare, and government. I wouldn't expect those sectors as much to be beholden to, or not beholden, but embracing some of the hiring practices that are more focused on diversity and inclusion. But who knows? I mean, that's a fair question. And look, I mean, based on the discrepancy between the unemployment rate of Black Americans and every other group that is being recorded, if this trend continues, then this seems like the type of thing that should garner special attention, that you should be looking a little bit further under the hood and tracking some of the employment practices, because the jobs are there, the jobs are being created. If Black people aren't getting them, then that should be a top priority for the government to figure out what's going on.
Matt?
Yeah, so thanks for breaking this down, Morgan. I have two questions for you, and they may be kind of rudimentary, but I need to know the relationship between a couple things. So I saw in the report that the average wage, I think, has gone up to $34 and some odd cents. What is the correlation between that and the Fed's approach to interest rates and trying to tamp down inflation, just so people understand how does the average wage correlate to that, if it does at all? And secondly, how does the Fed or any really government agency take into consideration that average wage is likely heavily skewed by incredibly high wage earners, who may be in tech or other sectors, as compared to a larger part of the populace? How does that factor into the Fed's approach to keeping our economy on track?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think an important point for all of us to keep in mind is it's not totally clear how the Fed makes decisions, right? I mean, they have their open meetings, they share some of their thoughts, but it's not exactly a fully transparent process. But just in terms of, how that wage growth impacts how they might be thinking about what to do with interest rates. And this is something I was talking about a little bit earlier. And by the way, I don't think there are any rudimentary questions. This is all kind of complicated, and it's important that we understand what's going on. And so If the Fed were to see that wages were increasing a lot, which is not what we saw this month, but if they were to see that wages were increasing a lot, then that would mean that employers have to start paying their work, that employers likely already were or are on a trend to have to start paying their workers a lot more. And if that's the case, then their operating costs overall of running their business would be increasing, which might lead them to increase prices as well, which could be then that is one of the, when we talk about inflation, we're talking about increased prices. So that could be driving a trend of prices continuing to go up and maybe an increase in the inflation rate. But since we're not seeing that, wage growth has stayed pretty stagnant. But jobs are still being created. That suggests that there are enough workers to go around that are filling these positions, that we don't have employers that are engaging in some kind of stiff competition and with having to increase wages even more to attract talent. Now, of course, we like earning more money. I like making more money. So a little competition is good, but we have seen a lot of wage growth over the past couple of years. And so this isn't saying that it's going down. It's just that it's more or less staying steady. And if that's all true, then we have an environment that is referred to as this equilibrium, where, okay, wages are staying pretty steady. They're going up, but not up too much. That jobs are still being created, that business is growing, we're seeing productivity increase in the economy. And those are the factors, that equilibrium, that we're probably going to be something that leads the Fed to think we're good. We're not in an excessively inflationary environment, and these interest rates can probably stay the same. They want to start changing interest rates when they feel like that's necessary to do, or if one of those things is getting out of balance and they want to start spurring more investment or spurring more business productivity. And right now it just doesn't seem like that's necessary. So a lot of people are saying it's more likely that they're just going to keep rates as they are, even though they have committed to decrease rates 3 times additionally this year. We'll see how that bears out.
Michael.
All right, Morgan. When we look at when we look at the labor force participation rate, we saw it increase to 62.7%, and we saw that people were both working and also looking for work in this March jobs report. When we look at the increase in the unemployment rate for Black women to 5.6% and 6.2% for African American men, what relationship, or how do we interpret that number also in relationship to possibly more African Americans looking for work as well? Because that can also increase the unemployment rate. What's the correlation there? How do we interpret these numbers?
Yeah, I mean, this is the area that concerns me the most, because, when that number goes down of people that are employed or looking for work, like you noted, it does include people who are looking for work. So if we're seeing that number go down for both Black women and Black men, that means people are opting out of engaging in the economy. But as we've said, the economy roars on. And so there is a risk there that people could be left behind. So we have, that's something that we need to continue to look at. But like I said, I caution against drawing too many strong conclusions just based on 1 month of data. But we need to definitely add that to our agenda and our monthly talks here about how those numbers are changing over time to know whether we have, a more of an emergency situation on our hands.
All right, then. Thank you. Morgan, we appreciate it. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you all.
Likewise. All right, folks, we come back. I love political shade. And a couple of Democrats have an idea of naming something after Donald Trump. I think it's a fantastic idea. I'll tell you what it is when we come back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
I'm Dee Barnes, and next on The Frequency, Beyonce has always been country.
We're talking to music, pop culture, and politics writer Taylor Crumpton about her new article on Beyonce's new country songs and how country music has always been part of Black culture.
Since the release of Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages, there has been a definition of what Black country music is and a definition of what white country music is. White country music historically has always won the awards, have always got the certifications. Black country music has not.
This is a conversation you don't want to miss. That's next on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
This is Essence Atkins.
Mr. Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
So earlier this week, some Republicans in the House said, hey, let's rename Dulles Airport, which is in Northern Virginia, suburb of D.C., after the Orange Man. Well, a couple of Democrats said, we have a better idea. Go to my iPad, Henry. Congressman Jerry Connolly, whose district the airport is in, and Jared Moskowitz out of Florida, and John Garamendi, they introduced a bill, Matt, Kelly, Michael, that is amazing. They say, instead, let's change the name of the federal prison in Miami to the Donald J. Trump Federal Correctional Institution. The quote, Connolly says, hey, when our Republican colleagues introduced their bill to rename Dulles after Donald Trump, I said the more fitting option would be to rename a federal prison. I see no reason to wait. Donald Trump faces nearly 100 felony charges. He has been found liable of sexual abuse and subsequently for defaming the victim of that abuse. He has been fined hundreds of millions of dollars in a civil fraud case. It is only right that the closest federal prison to Mar-a-Lago should bear his name. I hope our Republican friends would join us in bestowing upon Donald J. Trump the only honor he truly deserves. I think it is a fantastic idea, Matt.
I think this is stupid. This is absurd. And look, as a matter of course, I don't like a lot of the political pageantry on either side, no matter where my loyalties lie. I think it's dumb. I mean, look, they can't even figure out how to pass a spending bill to keep the government open, but they have time to pass, or at least propose asinine bills like this. I mean, it's funny. I'll concede that. I don't like the idea that, we as a society are becoming more cemented in the idea of making people guilty in the court of public opinion before they're found guilty in court. I think that will surely happen with Donald Trump, but he hasn't been found guilty yet. So, I get it. But I do think that it's funny. But I also don't like when politicians waste our resources on this kind of thing because we have a lot of big issues that need to be tackled. And I don't think they need to be passing bills purely for us to be talking about it on shows and laughing at the political shade. I mean, they got a lot more important things to do.
Well, actually, they have a lot more important things to do, Michael, but they've only passed something like 30 bills the whole damn year. So Democrats are like, okay, you have a stupid idea, we got a better one.
They passed the Republican-led House of Representatives passed 27 bills in 2023. That's the lowest number since the early 1930s during the Great Depression. This is a great idea. Mr. Law and Order is going to have a prison possibly named after him. Now, Donald Trump loves to slap his name on everything else. Okay, whether it's a Bible, whether it's steaks, whether it's water, whether it's Trump Tower, whether he likes to sign his name on stimulus checks and make people think that they came from him. So I think this is a good idea and probably poetic justice as well. And I know he hasn't been convicted yet, but Matt, a lot of this stuff he's admitted to doing. He admitted to taking the documents. He said he wants his documents back. He lied and said the Presidential Records Act of 1978 said he could take the documents and keep them. Okay? They were in his drawer. He didn't say he didn't take them. So a lot of this stuff, when you listen to him, a lot of this stuff he's admitted to doing. He's just too stupid to realize it. Name this after him. Maybe he'll go to this prison.
I mean, obviously, Matt, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Roland gets mad at us when we take the show over, so I don't want to get in trouble, but I will.
No, go ahead.
The show over.
That case. That's the case that I thought imperils him the most, frankly, because, not only did he keep those documents, his team conferred with the government multiple times. And then there's evidence that, he colluded with somebody that he's charged with. I can't remember the gentleman's name to keep those documents away from the government. So I think that case
obstruction
really
of justice.
has serious risk for him. And I've always thought that. So I don't think you're wrong. But I like the idea of innocent until proven guilty, because otherwise we will be on the losing end of that. And we have to preserve that as a principle of our legal system in America. I'm done, Roland.
Yeah, but here's the whole deal. Here's the whole deal, Kelly. You don't have to be convicted of something to have it named after you.
You don't. From my understanding, Dulles is named after somebody from the Eisenhower administration.
It was one of the Dulles brothers. You have Allen Dulles and John Foster Dulles, of course, the brothers who, frankly, were responsible for overthrowing many governments. One controlled the CIA, one was Secretary of State.
Right. So, and that's to my point. Like, we have plenty of landmarks and buildings named after people in American government that did absolutely atrocious things, whether they were convicted or not. So I don't see why this would be any different. I do agree with Matt that the legislation is dumb. I do think that we have more important things to discuss, but everybody needs a little bit of comic relief, even those who are in the government and frankly haven't been doing much by not passing bills. I digress on that. Even still, the point was made. Right. I would go a step further and say it shouldn't be something that Congress passes. I think they should slap his name on a for-profit prison for all, make some money, because he got to pay almost $500 million, or no, that got discounted to 100.
Pay it. He still has to pay it. That's just a bond.
Oh, he still has to pay it. Okay. I mean, he needs to make money somehow.
The case. Yeah.
He needs to make money somehow. I say put it on a for-profit prison, call it a day, and frankly, leave us alone. But my point being is that there are plenty of things that are named after people who did really grimy stuff, and their names are slapped on buildings all the time, every day. I don't see why Donald Trump would be any different. I think this would actually be appropriate.
Well,
have at it.
Hey, bottom line is, he's an idiot, and yeah, they're just having fun with it, but it was an equally stupid idea to name the airport after him because he's absolutely out of his mind. All right, I gotta go to a break. We come back. So Charlamagne the God talked about DEI on the Daily Show, and man, people were all in their feelings, people were upset. So I'm gonna talk about that, but we're gonna also expand the conversation. We talk about DEI. I will unpack and deconstruct that next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. And on the next Get Wealthy, you'll meet Jandy Turner, who took her love of sports expanded her network, and created a thriving business.
I settled on developing a golf event planning business, which in and of itself has been very viable for me. One of the things that I've learned from producing hundreds, if not thousands, of golf tournaments is that business gets done on the golf course.
All on The Next Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
This is your boy, Earthquake.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, so yesterday was crazy busy. I'm sitting there in the middle of a move to another house, and man, we were busy with April 4th, the 56th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. And so folks started with texting and calling me. Then I saw social media, and all these folks were talking about Charlamagne the God and being on the Daily Show and him talking about DEI. And I was just like, okay, y'all, I've been busy. So I looked at it 2 or 3 times today, and we've talked about some of these things before that he laid out in it. And so I wanted to deconstruct it because I do have some thoughts about what was said. So we're going to take it from the top, and then I'm going to walk y'all through this and share some things with you that hopefully you can be more well-rounded and informed about the reality of what we're talking about with DEI. Go.
Called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DEI. It means more fair hiring policies, new anti-discrimination rules for the workplace, and sensitivity training seminars. And the first thing it led to was a shitload of ads.
Real progress on diversity and inclusion doesn't happen without real work.
Say Celebrate Diversity into your X1 voice remote to discover curated content today.
Every day, General Mills serves the world by making food people love. And inclusion is one of our secret ingredients.
At Kraft Heinz, our purpose is to make life delicious. And we believe we can't achieve that without one essential ingredient: diversity. It's diversity that makes life delicious.
We're on a 400-year-long journey, and scars don't fade. But neither does hope.
Ask your doctor if black people are right for you. That's right. Nobody's buying Vaseline because of diversity. Come to think of it, I don't think I've ever actually bought Vaseline. It's just there. Like, it comes with the house, right? So that's how things stood in 2020, but that was like 15 years ago. Today, when people talk about DEI, it's more likely to sound like this.
DEI is just a rebranded version of
put on pause. Guys, put on pause right there. All right, so let's unpack this. Now, first and foremost, to understand DEI today, what you have to understand is, how did you even get to DEI? So, and remember, 1968, a report was done. It was commonly known as the Kerner Commission Report. And the report examined the cause of the riots in 1967. And what the result of that report, they concluded, they talked about a lot of issues, and they actually fought back and forth. What they said is there are 2 Americas. There were 1 white, 1 black. And one of the recommendations in the Kerner Commission report was that news media greatly contributed to the riot coverage, so therefore it needed to be diversified. So you then begin to see your first influx of African Americans in mainstream media. That really happened after the I'm talking about in significant numbers after 1968. So if you look at the early 70s, you really then begin to see your first programs dealing with affirmative action. Why? Well, remember, President Lyndon Baines Johnson used that phrase first when he was at Howard University. Then Richard Nixon is elected. One of Richard Nixon's focus was, in order to reach African Americans, let's tap into economics. So what Nixon did was, Nixon tapped Arthur Fletcher, and Arthur Fletcher many have called the father of affirmative action. Bob Brown who was a very close associate of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., involved in Operation Breadbasket. Bob Brown had a significant portfolio and was advancing a number of these economic initiatives in the Nixon administration. The reason Earl Graves was able to actually launch Black Enterprise is because he had raised money but did not have enough money, and he was seeking a grant from the federal government. Bob Brown discussed this in his book. And the Nixon folks were trying to block that grant because Earl Graves had worked for Bobby Kennedy. And Bob Brown was like, the hell with that, give him the damn loan. That's how Earl Graves was able to get the loan to launch what we now know as Black Enterprise. And so in the 1970s, you begin to see your first wave of African Americans in corporate America. Now, if you were remember, Jackie Robinson was the first vice president of a major corporation in New York City. So you go into the 1970s, and so you now begin to see African Americans go into corporate America. And the problem is that many of these African Americans, the highest that they got was really vice president of community affairs. We call those the Negro jobs. Those were the jobs where basically their job was to work with the community, and they would show up at the events, and they would come with the big checks with the small numbers and all stuff like that. You had that. Now, Ellis Coles talked about that generation of African Americans in the 70s and 80s in this book. Let's pull it up. The Rage of a Privileged Class. This is the book, right? This is the book right here. Why are middle-class blacks angry? Why should America care? And he talked about the things that they went through because they were hitting that glass ceiling. It is a phenomenal book that you actually ought to read. Once you and so you get those affirmative action programs. Remember, you had black mayors. So you get affirmative action programs that were quite significant in Atlanta, Maynard Jackson, Coleman Young in Detroit, Gary Hatcher in Gary, Indiana. You had Stokes in Cleveland, Marion Barry in Washington, D.C., and other places. Then what happens in 1980? Reagan is elected. So now you go into the 80s. Then you have the Supreme Court decision that then began to limit affirmative action programs. Then you saw a shift from affirmative action into diversity. So what you saw in the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, you begin to see these diversity officers, chief diversity officers. Then you shift from diversity or chief global diversity officer to DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, because coming out of the Black Freedom Movement, the focus was on African Americans. Then Title IX hits in 1972, which was about women. And so, who is the greatest beneficiary of affirmative action? White women. So what is known today as DEI is simply the child of the initial affirmative action programs. But what they then did, they began to expand this to not just be for African Americans. It became African Americans, it became white women, it became Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, it became gay, it became disabled, and then all of a sudden, the critics were like, well, why can't we have diversity of thought? So what was initially programs to target African Americans then began to expand, and so now that broad focus now began to get wide, and all kind of other folks were included. I remember I was speaking in a corporation, and somebody asked me about DEI programs, and I said, black people. They were like, that's it? I said, ethnics. I said, ethnic Americans. I said, I limited that. I wasn't trying to include everybody else because I was focused on exactly what programs were designed for. And so, George Floyd is murdered May 2020. I remember talking to somebody who was in the DEI space. At one point after the death of George Floyd, there were something like 100 open DEI jobs on LinkedIn. I mean, all of a sudden, the jobs opened up. And so you then begin to see corporations posting on Instagram, on Twitter, all these places talking about their support for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was sort of like, really? Really? And so you begin to see that Then you had these commitments of billions of dollars. Stories have been done on these corporations. The numbers have gone, I've seen numbers anywhere from 30 billion to 100 billion talking about supporting various initiatives all across the country. Let's pull it up. Come on. Here we go. Corporate America's $50 billion promise. That's one story. I've seen other stories where it's even higher. And everything was about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Now, once you begin to unpack DEI, what you begin to realize that something like 75% of the people who had the DEI jobs were white folks. Yep. Weren't black folks. It was white folks. A lot of them women. Now, press play. Let's pick up where Charlamagne left off, and let me unpack the next part.
DEI is just a rebranded version of hating white people.
DEI, in this case, stands for divisive, erroneous, and insidious.
DEI, which stands for didn't earn it. Discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination.
DEI. DEI stands for Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and Ice Cube. Yeah. Y'all cheering out there, but do you want with attitude coming to your office? These right-wingers are crazy, right? Jesus. But here's the part where you all stop applauding everything I say. The truth about DEI is that although it's well-intentioned, it's mostly garbage, okay? It's kind of
Freeze
like
right there. Freeze right there. Now, understand, from day one, white folks could not stand affirmative action programs. From day one. If you go back into history, they couldn't stand programs after the Civil War. So at every point, you've had this reluctance because it's like, oh, fine, y'all got some freedoms, but no, we ain't trying to give y'all no jobs. We're trying to give you any housing. And so you had the pushback against affirmative action programs. Then it became, let's get rid of these quota programs. So the folk that you saw, all them Fox News folks, all these anti-DEI people, Christopher Rufo, all these people, these folks have been running their mouths, and you throw in a sprinkle of some black people, some others in there. And they have been opposing these programs because they don't want to deal with white supremacy. They don't want to deal with racism. And see, what they then do is, this is the whole game, and you see it now. Because, the Charlie Kirks of the world. Oh, I'm concerned if there's a black pilot. Candace Owens, all people saying that sort of nonsense. As if we had airplane crashes by white people. See, we're not talking about a significant percentage of people who are in corporate power. We're not. It's largely controlled by white America. Those are just facts. And so critics are going to be critics. They are going to complain about any of these things because they don't want to deal with the underlying issue, which is when it comes to hiring, people pretty much hire who they know. And if all you know are white folks, and if all you see are white folks, and if all you hang out with are white folks, and if you only recruit at schools where there are white folks, then that's exactly who you're going to hire. Press play.
The truth about DEI is that although it's well-intentioned, it's mostly garbage, okay? It's kind of like the Black Little Mermaid. Just because racists hate it doesn't mean it's good. And you know I'm right, because every one of you has sat through one of those diversity training sessions and thought, this is some bullshit. And it's not just you.
Now, here's the whole deal. When we talk about diversity training, I've been in various programs, and what we have to understand is people don't like to be confronted with their own issues. We love to live in our silos, how we were raised, how we were brought up, and we like to look at the world in a certain way. What we don't want to have to do is consider somebody else's perspective. I remember when I was at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and the Maynard Institute was brought in to deal with a training program for us to diversify our sources. And I remember sitting there, and there was a white male business writer, and he was conservative, and he was resisting what they were talking about. And we're sitting there going, but look at who you call. See, for him, he would say, and this is what you hear from white folks today, well, I'm calling the people who I think are well-versed and experts on the topic. Precisely. But the people you're calling, they're nearly all white. Do you even think to call black experts? Do you even think to call black economists? And see, well, they would then go, well, I don't understand. Why do I have to call a black economist? You don't have to, but you could call an economist who happens to be black. Because what we see when it comes to how we live and how we work is that that's what folks do. And so if you start looking at contracts, start looking at, well, who's getting these contracts? Well, if the catering company and the legal fees and the architecture company and the engineering company and all professional service, if everybody white, man, that's what's getting hooked up. But y'all don't think about it. There's a black accounting firm, there's a black law firm that can do some of the outside work. No, see, they don't think about those things. And so the reality of DEI, it is forcing people to get out of their comfort zone and say, diversify who we do business with, provide equity in terms of economics, and include other people. But people hate to have to do that because they don't want to be forced to do it, because that means they have to do some work. That means they don't have to, that means they have to now go seek people. I remember Chris Rock complained about the lack of black people on Saturday Night Live. And he said, here's the problem. The white folks at SNL, they keep going to the same place, Second City in Chicago, or they're going to places in Canada. He said, y'all ain't going to the black comedy clubs. Y'all not going to hang out there. And so what he was saying is, if this is all you know, if you're at SNL, you're Lorne Michaels, and this is all you know, you don't even see all this talent over here. You don't even see all this talent over here, and that's the reality of why you have DEI programs. It's not about, oh, I'm hiring somebody who simply can't do it. But see, that's what the haters do. See, the haters love to frame this thing as, oh, they're not good enough. But you notice, these white folks who criticize DEI, they never, ever seem to question incompetent white people, because they operate from the basis that they're naturally qualified. And they never assign their racial identity to them getting hired. So they'll say, well, we had to hire a black person. We had to hire a black lawyer. We had to hire that. But you hired all these white folks. What do they all have in common? That's what we're now seeing with the criticism of DEI. Plush play.
And it's not just you. Over 900 studies have shown that DEI programs don't make the workplace better for minorities. In fact, it can actually make things worse because of the backlash effect.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where I have a fundamental problem with what Charlamagne said there. Because this notion that, well, it makes it harder in the workplace because these people don't like it. I don't give a shit if they don't like it. I don't care. Because the fact of the matter is, it does matter. And when you listen to all of these haters, they're actually lying. This, folks, is from the Pew Research Center. You see, May 17th, 2023. Workplace diversity and equity and inclusion efforts, or DEI, a majority of Americans employed, 56%, say focusing on DEI at work is a good thing. 6 in 10 Americans, 61%, say their company or organization has policies that ensure fairness in hiring, pay, or promotion. 52% say they have trainings or meetings on DEI at work. Now, you start going through this, and the folks who have been interviewed, yes, look at this here. Relatively small share of workers place a lot of importance on diversity at their workplace. More than half of workers say their company or organization pays about the right amount of attention to increasing DEI. Women are more likely than men to value DEI at work. There are wide partisan differences in views of workplace DEI. 78% of Democratic and Democratic-leaning workers say focusing on DEI at work is a good thing, compared with 30% of Republicans and Republican leaners. Now you understand. What is the Republican Party? It's a white party. President Herbert Hoover was a leader of what was called the Lily White movement, where Republicans who came out of the radical Republicans after the Civil War aligned with the KKK to suppress black people. It was called the Lily White movement. That's today's Republican Party. See, they hate all this DEI stuff. It's right there in the data. Only 30% of Republicans like it. So when you're watching Fox News and you're hearing conservative radio, all these digital sites, what you're hearing are people who are, oh my God, this DEI stuff is awful, because it lines up with actually their point of view. Because they don't actually want to see people like us actually move ahead. Press play.
DARE from school? Y'all remember DARE? Yeah. She said, woo. DEI training is like DARE for racism. And you all know how effective that was. I was sitting there going, oh, shit, there's a ton of fun drugs I should try. I didn't even know about Molly. Thanks, Officer John. But the biggest failure of DEI is that the number of black people in power at big companies is basically the same as it was 5 years ago. In fact, maybe the only thing that DEI has accomplished is giving racist white people cover to be openly racist.
Now, again, this is where Charlamagne's wrong. Here are the number of African Americans who are now CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. There are 9. Now, first of all, I said Fortune 500 companies, so we ain't talking a huge amount. But the reality is, just 5 years ago, a few years ago, there were 5. Okay, so what you are seeing, the progress. Now, here's the issue. The problem that you see in the Executive Leadership Council, the group of black corporate leaders, they've dealt with this, is that for many of these leaders who are black people who are in corporate America, the problem is when they get to 55, 58, they're being moved out. And so they're still hitting a ceiling. That is a fundamental problem that we are seeing. But that means when we're talking about DEI, you're going to have white folks who make it a priority. I'm going to unpack that in a second. Press play.
DEI breeds complacency, Dana, and complacency kills.
We're going to have doctors who don't know how to perform heart surgery, and we're going to have planes that are falling out of the sky.
Boeing recently bragged not about being the best in the business, but about surpassing its diversity quotas. Oh, goody. But then, not so good. A door flying off one of Boeing's 737 Supermaxes.
I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
I mean, honestly, when I see a black pilot, I'm not worried that we're going to crash. I'm worried that we're going to get pulled over. Okay? That's right. That's right. That's right. And no, officer, I will not step out of this vehicle. All right? But yeah, they're blaming DEI for everything, even that bridge in Baltimore. They called Baltimore's mayor the DEI mayor, like he was given the job for being black. Then they said the shipping company was too focused on DEI instead of safety. But almost the entire leadership of the company is white. No black people, right? If anything, the Baltimore mayor, he should have been the one to make it racist. Just come out like, these crackers knocked down my bridge, okay? All right? And one of y'all crackers better pay for it, okay? And honestly, I'm not surprised these programs didn't work. And here's why. It's just corporate PR. They want good vibes. And also, they want to cover their ass, okay? Did you know that if a company gets sued for civil rights violations, just having a DEI program will be counted as evidence in their favor, even if the program doesn't do shit, okay? It's the I have a black friend of the legal system, right? We don't need corporate DEI. Yes, we want diversity and equity and inclusion, but we don't want it from Vaseline. Although I'm not going to front, Vaseline has been there for the black community. Respect, okay? Right? That's right. Moisturized, okay? Look, man, real DEI is only going to come from black leadership. I don't know how to do it because I'm not a black leader. But I do know how to tell if it's working. Just keep an eye on right-wing media. The more they're freaking out, the more progress we're making.
Okay, this is where Charlamagne is flat out wrong. So when he says that we don't need DEI from corporate America, it's not true. And he says it's going to come from black people. Here's the problem with that. Put the graphic back up. There are only 9 black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. That means that there are 491 non-black CEOs of Fortune 500 company. The reality is you are going to need white people who actually believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion for that to happen. And there are examples. Al Newharth, he was the founder of USA Today. Al Newharth grew up in South Dakota. He did not grow up around a lot of black people. But Al Newharth understood the value of diversity. So when Al Newharth was the CEO of Gannett, he made a declaration that Gannett was going to be the leading company in America when it came to the issue of diversity. I had a syndicated column with Creator Syndicate. And when Al Newharth died in 1989, this here is exactly what I wrote. Quote, his obituary in the New York Times read, in an industry long dominated by white men, Mr. Newharth led the way in the hiring and promotion of women and minorities, tying compensation to hiring goals. By 1988, the proportion of minorities in Gannett newsrooms was 47% higher than the national average. Women accounted for nearly 40% of the company's managers, professionals, technicians, and sales agents, and an unheard of quarter of its newspaper publishers. In Al Newhart's book, Confession of an SOB, he actually wrote that when he launched this particular initiative, that people were angry. Folks were upset with him. And he said point blank, if any of y'all have a problem with me tying your bonuses to your diversity numbers, you're free to leave the company. And guess what? A lot did. But you know what happened? You saw an explosion of black people, Hispanics, white women, and others who became publishers, news directors, managing editors, general managers of media company. And guess what that did? That forced all the other media companies to go, damn, we about to lose our minority talent, so we now got to change our programs. So guess what happened? Knight Ridder, Cox, and the others began to change. The problem is we didn't have enough Al Newharts in media to change the industry. He was by himself. As another example, John Landgraf. John Landgraf is the CEO of FX, the cable network. Now, you've seen many of those programs. You've seen Donald Glover's show, Atlanta, shows along those lines. Well, guess what? John Landgraf sat there and looked at his shows. And he then began to say, wait a minute, we got a problem. It's too many white guys. It's too many white directors. It's too many white showrunners. It's too many white writers. We can't tell different stories by keep hiring white folks. He was quoted saying, listen, I like my white guys. This is not going to work. So in 2016, John Landgraf sent out an email to his entire network and said, this has to change. In 2021, check this out. Nearly half of all episodes on FX were directed by people of color. Women were 35% of those who directed those episodes. But it wasn't just directors. And listen to this, quote, truthfully, I'm not proud of fact it took me so long to take concerted action on inclusiveness. He said, hold on one second. He said, because he had been running the network at that time for 15 years. It's heartening to see our industry fully commit to meaningful, measurable, and permanent change. He said, when FX was radically over-indexing in one race and gender, we were by definition overlooking talent. When we started looking for talent in every segment of our population, our shows got better. When you're in the talent business, diversity is good for business. Now, that's why Charlamagne is wrong. The reality is, black folks ain't running these joints. We're not running these companies. Now, we may push folks, you may have a few folks in there, but you need operational leaders. Jonathan Rogers, who was the first CEO of TV One. When Jonathan Rogers joined the board of Comcast, I was like, yo, that's awesome. He's like, not really. I was like, hold up. Now, y'all, Jonathan was on the board of Procter & Gamble. He was on the board of Nike. And I was like, Jonathan, are you serious? He said, I didn't want a board job. He said, Roland, I want an operational job. I was like, but is it a board job better than an operational job? He said, no. I said, Jonathan, why? He said, because if I had an operational job, that's where you hire. He said, by the time it gets to the board, we don't control hiring. He said, we just sit here and oversee the CEO. That was an instructive thing he actually said to me. So what we have to understand is that for DEI to work, you've got to actually have individuals who are in power, for the most part they're gonna be white, who are making the decisions in order to be able to affect the change. This is where we, again, make a mistake on this very issue. And so, Mark Cuban, he's been very much talking about a lot of these issues. He's been focusing on a lot of these issues. And so I sent Mark Cuban, don't pull it up yet, I sent Mark Cuban an email to get his particular thoughts. And I wanted to get him on the show because he's been going back and forth against Christopher Rufo, against Elon Musk, slamming them on this issue of diversity. I mean, he's been swinging on them. And so I sent Mark an email, and I said, hey, we'd love to have you on the show, but if you can't come on the show, share me some thoughts. And so this is the email that Mark Cuban, of course, who, owner of the Mavericks, well, he sold the team, but this is what he sent me back. He said, Roland, look at the top 10 market cap companies. All have DEI programs, even Tesla. 3 of the top 4 are run by people of color. The other, Apple, by a gay man. All make DEI a priority. My general position is that I believe DEI is really good for business. People trust people who look like them. They want to do business with them. But to me, it's not about hiring heads of DEI and creating a bureaucracy or doing commercials like Charlamagne CTG criticized. It's about following good DEI business principles. Diversity is looking for great people where others don't. There are a lot of smart people that are ignored for jobs. Find them where others aren't looking. Equity is where the right goes nuts. They think it's about quotas and making sure no one has an advantage or can succeed beyond anyone else. Equity is putting your employees in a position to succeed. That's it. Training, support, etc. If you hire someone smart, no matter what they look like, give them the tools to make you more successful. Inclusion, make people feel good about themselves at work. That's just smart business. He is right. We need more black leaders. But when you are only 8% of the white-collar workforce, it takes time. And he contradicted himself. Can racists freak out any more than they are now? Everything is about DEI, which is another way of saying people of color aren't qualified. They can't do the job. They only get it because of DEI. Look at the people that work for you. Where do you recruit? How do you put your employees in a position to succeed? How do you make people who are different feel included? You have been an entrepreneur for a long time. Talk about your business and your experience. You don't have to have a DEI program to practice DEI. You just have to run your business the right way and set standards for how people are treated. And folks, right there, the fundamental issue with DEI programs as to how they are set up right now is that they are performative because the leaders are not serious. The leaders are not taking proactive decisions. The leaders are not sitting here going, wait a minute, who has all of our outside legal work and our accounting work? We're spending money on catering. Do we have any black caterers? We spend how much money on flowers for the office? Are we using any black florists? We spend money on audiovisual. Are we using any black audiovisual companies? How much of our money is going to spend on advertising? Oh, the ad agency we're using, are they diverse? Oh, we're not going to spend our money with lily white ad agencies. Oh, y'all see how that works? That's what a leader does. So you can't have white folks over here talking about pull yourself up by your bootstrap, why y'all can't get ahead, why you're always begging the government for money, but then over here, we're frozen out of jobs, we're frozen out of contracts, and frozen out of opportunities, and then you complain about DEI. So what I need folks to understand, and again, it was a comedy segment, and it was 5.5 minutes. I've already gone 38 minutes. But the reality when we talk about what's happening with DEI, these white racists and these haters, they are trying to attack everything that is positioning black people where we are today. They're suing the Fearless Fund. They're targeting every program in corporate America. They're targeting law firms. You name it, that's what they're doing. Because of this. And I wrote about it. And y'all, everything you're seeing I called. It's white fear. They now have to compete. And so what they don't like is, wait a minute, y'all now recruiting at HBCUs? Oh, no. They're not smart enough. See, they couldn't get into our schools, so therefore they had to go to those schools. Oh, yeah. You see what happens when they come out of these high schools and they come to our schools and they're on academic probation the first or second year? But those same people don't want to confront the economic inequality at those high schools, then those junior highs, then the elementary schools. Oh, then you don't want to confront the economic inequality that's happening in those neighborhoods. Oh, then you don't want to confront the economic inequality that those parents went through. Damn, then you don't want to confront the economic inequality that those grandparents went through. See, it's real easy to act like we're all running from the same mark and running a race when we all know that's not the case. And so the attacks on DEI, they are absolutely anti-blackness. The problem with corporate America is that there are too many white folks in corporate America who are playing games when it comes to DEI. They're handing out DEI jobs and the people have no budgets. They got no P&L responsibility. And the leadership of the companies is not a priority. In order for DEI to truly be effective in America, we're gonna need 1,000 Al Newharts. And we're gonna need 1,000 John Landgrafs. We're gonna need white executives, white men, white women to actually be honest about their failures when it comes to leading. That was what has to happen. So if you're breaking down this segment and you are, oh my goodness, what went on here? This is the whole deal. To corporate America, stop being performative. That's why we in the Black-owned media collective, that's why we challenge General Motors. That's why we challenge McDonald's. That's why we challenge these companies. And you know what happened? Target was like, oh, we're gonna spend $2 billion with black companies. All of a sudden, Group M announced 30 or 40 of their companies, some named, a lot not. They're gonna spend at least 2% of their ad budgets with black-owned media. We're still waiting because we haven't gotten any money from Group M here at the Black Star Network. And I've been meeting with them for a very long time, 3 years. We've gotten zero. I've been meeting with Publicis for the past several weeks because we got the runaround from Publicis for 3 years. And we're finally meeting with chief investment officers. I met with OMD after getting the runaround, met last year, a CIO left, so now we're trying to meet with their chief investment officer. There are other ad agencies we're trying to reach as well. So here's the deal. You can't tell black people, well, you're not building your business. Well, if I can't get the contract. Well, you need access to capital. Well, no, I ain't got no debt. I can look right now. I got money in the bank, so I need a contracts. I can't grow my business. I can't hire more people if I don't have the contracts. See, if we talk about the reality of DEI, nothing is going to change as long as you have scared, timid, weak, impotent, white corporate leaders who are unwilling to look their friends, their country club pals, and their family members in the eye and say, a lot of the shit that comes out of your mouth is racist. And the fact of the matter is, America and these companies are not going to be able to grow if we do not have diverse initiatives. Last point. Charlamagne said, well, I don't want DEI when it comes to Vaseline. Unilever owns them. Unilever owns a ton of companies. Unilever owns a ton of companies where we as black folks buy products. Oh, hell yes, Unilever had better have a strong-ass DEI program. And Unilever and Clorox and Procter & Gamble and Apple and all of these companies need to be spending money with black-owned media, need to be spending money with black law firms, need to be spending money with black accounting firms, need to be spending money with black engineering firms, need to be spending money with African Americans up and down their business diversity list. Not supplier diversity, business diversity. What we're seeing with the attacks of DEI are from, frankly, scared white people who don't want to confront systemic racism in corporate America. But this is a moment when white leadership, while you have these lawsuits going on, has to have the courage to say, we aren't going anywhere. We're going to do what Al Newhart did. And that's say, if you don't like the fact that we support diversity, equity, inclusion, you, white critic, are more than happy to leave. Because I bet you we're going to be successful in finding your replacement, and they likely will be black or person of color. When we come back, we'll talk with Randy Bryant, DEI disruptor, and my panel to continue this conversation. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Joining us right now is DEI disruptor, Randy Bryant. Randy, glad to have you. Normally she's on Tuesday, but she joins us now. Of course, we still have Matt, Kelly, and Michael as well. So, Randy, you're not saying destroy, get rid of, and obliterate DEI programs. But when you say DEI disruptor, what do you mean?
What I mean is you need to change it. It does need improvement, as any programs do. That's nothing new when you roll out something. So I don't want to destroy it, as it seems as if Charlamagne is suggesting that we do, and that most of it's garbage. We disrupt it. We make it better, right? I think that the unfortunate part about what Charlamagne the God did is that he acts like DEI just came about. DEI has been around forever. IBM had its first affinity group for Black people back in 1968. Roosevelt passed bills to ensure that we could integrate the military for World War II.
After A. Philip Randolph threatened a march of 250,000 Black people to come to D.C.
Correct. The Equal Pay Act is 1963. That is DEI. So DEI did not come about when George Floyd was brutally murdered. DEI has been around forever, and we have made great progress and strides in DEI. The reason why Charlamagne probably is able to be on TV and have a voice is because of DEI, because there was a time that he would not have existed. He would not be able to have a voice. He would not be respected. So while we are not where we should be, right, and we have a lot of work to do, DEI has been a fantastic tool to make progress. So no, it's not about getting rid of it. It is about changing it. And also what scares me is that what he did on his platform, he has a powerful platform, and I absolutely respect that he has this power, is that he gave voice to all of these right-wing Republican extremists who want nothing but to destroy DEI. They've proven that by passing laws in half the states right now. I mean, they just had 60 employees let go in, I think it was Florida.
Well, no. The 60 with the University of Texas. You also had it in Florida because they banned DEI, Florida, Alabama, Texas, and multiple states. But to your point about destroying the programs, go to my iPad, Henry. So here's a perfect example. Stephen Miller's white nationalist group is representing this white Hollywood writer who is suing the studio because he's claiming Brian Benecker is suing CBS and Paramount for discrimination because he's saying, oh, I didn't get hired as a showrunner because of diversity. Well, here's the deal. The writing rooms in Hollywood are so white, bro, you probably didn't get a job because some other white person. Reminded me of Mary Fisher's lawsuit against the University of Texas. But what they do, because their end game is to get rid of all of these programs that were created in Hollywood to create opportunities for black and other writers. And so this lawsuit operates as the Trojan horse. That's their end game.
That's absolutely their end game. And that's why I am disappointed that Charlamagne gave them a platform and showed all the things that they were saying as as if there's a pilot who happens to be black, that means the pilot is deficient in his skills. I mean, the pilot went through the exact same programs and training that every other pilot went. They're not just going and finding someone off the street and saying, can you fly this plane? DEI was created, and I say this over and over again, to help to fix a problem in this country where we would not permit Black people, people with disabilities, women in positions whatsoever. That is why it came to be.
Look right here, this lawsuit, Randy. Look right here. The Benecker lawsuit asserts that, quote, an illegal policy of race and sex balancing promoted the hiring of unnamed, quote, less qualified applicants, including women, minorities, or LGBTQ writers. Well, first of all, if you're talking about women, you're talking about white women, okay? And if you're talking about LGBTQ, we're not in that category, because anytime when they break out categories, they put the black people in the black category. You can't be in multiple categories. But again, that's what the goal is. So I think, and again, and listen, I was texting Charlamagne today. I think, absolutely, I believe that the segment should have focused on the white racist attacks on DEI and what their end game is, and absolutely saying, hey, corporate America, don't play performative politics when it comes to DEI. Have real DEI that can actually create lasting change and have the fortitude to stand up for your own programs.
All of that. I mean, what I do, the reason why I changed my whole platform and became the DEI disruptor, I have, as of yesterday, actually, my company turned 23 years old. We have run this company making change in corporations and in the government to ensure that they were places that were diverse, equitable, and inclusive. So first of all, it's not new. Secondly, the reason why I think it needs change is that some people, he's correct in that some people looked at it as something for public relations. Yep. It's very obvious when they do it. It's very obvious. We're not stupid people, but there are companies who are doing well and who have shown in their numbers that they are hiring and promoting.
Oh, man, because you started highlighting people. Who would you say, name a few companies that you know, you've been doing research, that are doing a great job that others should be following and emulating?
Number one, I would say Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's, forget their entire company is built on ensuring that everybody has a voice and everybody is respected. It's not a policy. It's not a brunch for Martin Luther King. It is not, just a training class. So when he stated the statistic about, does DEI programs make companies better? If it's just a training class, of course, it's not going to just make it better. It has to be woven throughout the foundation of an organization, that everything they think about involves, are we including everybody? Because this is the thing, and this is what upsets me. All of us in this world are biased, right?
Everybody has a bias.
In this world.
Listen. You can criticize Texas, but my ass from Texas, and my parents are from Texas.
Right.
And guess what? I'm going to defend where I'm from. Now, I'm going to criticize it, but I'm also defend it.
Well,
that's a natural, inherent bias.
But also, like I tell people, if you introduce me to a sister that went to an HBCU, don't let her be an AKA. I am biased towards her. So what it said is that if you looked at every organization, from the government to every corporation, all you saw were white males. So they said, we can't just say, hi, guys, you rich white men, could you do us a favor and maybe consider that there's some qualified candidates that are women, that are minorities, that are Black, that are gay? No, because they aren't going to do it. We have to say, we're going to put some things in place to help you fight, to help challenge your biases.
Yep.
Right? That's all DEI is when they talk about hiring. It is not to hire unqualified people. It's to hire very qualified people.
Well, but here's the deal, though. The word, but Randy, the word qualified is never used when discussing white people. They only use the qualified when it's talking about Black people, other people of color.
If you look at what they're doing at colleges with nepotism, where there is a legacy, there were like a very good number of people get into these colleges and universities because they have a legacy.
Hell, you ain't got to go to college. If you actually want to be a coach in the NFL, the best way to get one is have your daddy be a coach. They essentially hire their sons. Panelists got some questions. I'm going to go to Michael first. Michael, go.
All right, Randy, this is a fantastic conversation here. I guess what I would ask is, how do we push forward the enhanced, more effective DEI programs at the corporate level? And the reason why I say that is because you have the attack on DEI right now. But also for a lot of African Americans, I would say, a lot of us may not be clear exactly on what DEI is. Okay, so how would we go about? Maybe give us some tips on how we go about pushing forward effective programs with what we have now. We don't have more people like Roland was saying that we need right now. But what we have now, how can we push forward?
Let me tell you something. I don't ever try to change people's hearts, but people do think and vote and conduct themselves with their dollars. If we say, so a company like Tesla, and Elon Musk has made it very clear that he's not pro-Black, not pro-diversity, not pro-DEI, right? Stop buying his products.
Damn Skippy.
Stop buying a Tesla.
Damn right.
And let me tell you something. If we would take companies and we said, you know what, this company has no minorities on the board of directors. They have no Black people on their executive team. So we are not going to support them. They will not get our money. And you know how much spending money we have, power we have. They will all of a sudden.
$1.6 trillion.
They will all of a sudden become all about DEI. Where's that girl, Randy? We want to hire her. Money talks and bullshit walks.
There you go.
Right? Stop allowing people to just to take your money and you have not shown any allegiance to them. Like, when they say back, during the civil rights movement, don't shop where you can't be hired. Don't shop where you can't be hired. It's still the same principle.
And also, just so folks understand and keep in mind, when you're sitting here watching, you're looking at all of these people on Fox News complaining about DEI, Guess who has a DEI initiative? Fox.
News.
Kelly, go. Kelly, go.
Sure. So I don't necessarily have a question so much as just a thought that I'd like for you to expound upon, being the hypocrisy of what Charlamagne said as a whole, considering that he very likely got on The Daily Show because of some DEI initiative, the fact that he has a Breakfast Club show because of a DEI initiative, the fact that he sat on panels because of DEI initiatives, he's spoken about DEI initiatives in corporate spaces and how he's benefited from DEI initiatives. I am just tired of giving people platforms in which they have absolutely no concept of what is actually going on, and or in Charlamagne's case, willful cognitive dissonance regarding these issues just so that he can have sound bites that he can profit off of.
Well, here's what I think, Randy. And again, my deal is, and that's why I walked through it. A lot of what Charlamagne said is correct. Performative, running of the ads, not taking it seriously. But again, where I disagree is saying we don't need it in corporate America. The reality is that's where the money at. That's where the job's at. And what we know is corporate America, that they can actually drive change. Let's be real clear. Corporate America, why did a lot of places integrate in the South? Because they saw that train coming and they were like, hey, we ain't trying to have them shut down our department stores. Damn it, integrate. You said it, money talks. And let's remind people, when corporate America pulled their money out of North Carolina with that transgender bathroom bill, they changed that damn law. When the brothers in Mississippi said, we ain't playing at Mississippi State under that damn Confederate flag, they changed the damn law and took it down. We as black folk, to your point, got to use our money leverage, and most of the DEI initiatives that came forward after George Floyd's death, because them white kids in them companies were acting a fool. And Adidas, give you an example, Randy, Adidas announced we're going to do a $10 million initiative. Them white folks at Adidas lost their mind. The next day, the CEO announced, okay, hold up, we're going to do $100 million, and then a third of our jobs will be people of color. The whole backlash to DEI is because white people in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd rose up. So the attacks on books, the attacks on CRT, the attacks on DEI are all because they freaked out when they saw them white kids have a changed view. And that's why you now see them now, let's attack woke, let's attack DEI, and attach it to everything and make it negative. Randy, go.
They are attacking everything that moves us forward, which is not something new. And, you know, when I look at Charlamagne and what he said today, you know, one, I don't know if he's like technically worked in a corporation.
The Breakfast Club is owned by iHeartRadio.
Right, but I'm talking about him going to like an office and working. I mean,
No, iHeartRadio.
Right.
I've been to the studio. That ain't black. That's not black owned.
Right. And so what unfortunately happens is exactly what happened to him, in my opinion, is what happens to a lot of DEI leads at companies, including myself, right? Your message only gets put up if it's approved by your bosses. You have to say something. So what he did today, to me, in my opinion, was to say DEI was not effective, should be thrown away. And that serves the purposes of the right-wing Republicans.
Versus saying, what you're saying, Brandy, versus saying, here's the problem with DEI, here's how it needs to be changed to be effective.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if there are a lot of, you know, IBM has been effective. Target and Walmart, if you look at what they have done the last several years, they have done some impressive work. A lot of the tech companies, they haven't done much at all. But there are companies, because they understand that if they don't promote diversity, inclusion, and equity, they can't make it. Look at Netflix. Netflix was the first. I mean, they really came out with so much diversity in their programming, in the people they had. I mean, I'm telling you, they've done a brilliant job, right? I mean, outside of this Good Times show that's about to come out, they've done a good job. So when they did that, companies like Fox, that's why they have Tubi. They realized that to compete in this world, so while they have Charlamagne and people discounting it, they know they need it.
Well, here's the deal. Before I go to Matt, can we go to my iPad? This literally right here is a letter to the shareholders from the CEO of iHeart Radio talking about, and what do they say? The purpose of our ESG report is to increase transparency around our ESG efforts, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the reality is here.
But what they'll have to do, though, is even when they say we've hired a black person, they have to allow Charlamagne or whoever black person they promote to speak truthfully.
Well, first of all, he was speaking on Comedy Central, which is owned by Paramount. That was iHeart Radio. So
funny.
Well, again, no, it's so. Here's my whole deal. They're different platforms, and what has to happen is this is where you've got to have also real conversations. This is where you've got to have folk with expertise who are bringing knowledge to sort of unpack this. Again, where he was correct, and I agree with, and I've publicly criticized it, where DEI fails is when it's performative, when they run ads, when they post stuff on social media, and they don't follow up with action. That's why I've been criticizing companies and their ad agencies. Don't sit and tell me you're committed to black-owned businesses, but then your ad agencies want to return our phone calls. That ain't real. Matt.
So, Randy, I appreciate you breaking this down or adding to Roland's breakdown, but here's my question for you. So many of the metrics that we use for the efficacy of DEI programs, we talk about the C-suite, but the reality is that's not representative of most people who would be benefited by DEI programs. So my question to you is, what examples have you seen of good policies, effective policies for your average person, your average viewer who's watching this, who would be greatly benefited if they went and applied for a job and knew they had a fairer chance of getting that job? We're not talking about the C-suite because that's a very small percentage of people. So what have you seen that applies to more of us than that?
Well, this is where I believe that, again, where the studies that were cited got it wrong. There have been great improvements when it comes to Black people getting jobs at almost across the board. I mean, from the federal government to localized governments to corporations, Fortune 500 and down, where you are seeing more Black people get jobs and management jobs. You are right that the C-suite is kind of where we get stopped oftentimes, but to say that we have not made great strides is ridiculous. If I were to name companies, there's so many. Like I just said, Target, Walmart has done a great. The tech companies to me have done the worst. If you're looking at the promises they've made, the tech companies like Facebook and Google, nothing has moved on their scale of anything. But most companies across the board have more diversity than they've seen in the past. And the reason why is because they were pressured to do so. People aren't going to do things just because they're nice. And DEI wasn't developed to get unqualified people in positions. It was just to put the net further. Tell me where you are looking for qualified candidates. Also, let's talk about your biases, because what's very insulting about what these commentators are saying and how they're attacking DEI is what they're saying is if you hire a Black person, that automatically means that you're hiring a less qualified person.
Yep.
So for somebody to say that aloud is bold.
Well, but again, no, but that's the agenda.
That is the absolute agenda, to say that if I see a Black pilot, automatically I'm assuming that they're not qualified. So it's talking about pilots. If you look at the airlines, all of the airlines now have programs to partner with HBCUs.
But that's racism. So that's just racist, just being very clear with their racist language, and they're allowed to get away with it.
Well, the reverse racism, if you know.
No. I'm saying, I'm not calling reverse racism. I'm saying using that language. If you say I see a Black pilot, I automatically think they're not qualified. You racist.
1,000% racist. There is no ways around it that's racist. Okay, but the cosmetics companies, you look at people like Rihanna, who had to come out and with her Fenty company and say, there's no shades that match Black people. You got like five shades.
Yep.
I mean, there are major changes being made every day. Does it mean that there are a lot of companies that it's performative? No, of course they're being performative. But I'm gonna tell you something. If Black people become active and call these companies out,
Yep.
I promise you that they will not be performative anymore. Let their stocks drop. Let their earnings drop.
Yep.
Let Black people say, we're not buying from them anymore, just as people have done with Starbucks recently. I promise you, all of a sudden, we all be getting calls like,
And I'll add to that for Black people, don't fall for the okie doke if they go hire a Black celebrity to do some commercials and think all is good. No, the notion is you got to go deeper and broader. I'm going to close it out with this here. This is the quote that Mark Cuban said. Look, the University of Texas fired 60 people who were in DEI jobs. Here's the deal. The university president, he didn't have to fire them. He could have shifted them to other areas. Where Cuban is correct, that these programs are being targeted, go to my iPad. This is correct. You don't have to have a DEI program to practice DEI. You just have to run your business the right way and set standards for how people are treated. Here's the fact, Randy, and this is the last comment. If these companies were doing right by us, you wouldn't need DEI programs because you would be saying to your people, no, cast a wider net. The programs are a way to force folks to have to broaden the talent pool, have to recruit different places. And so to all the haters, if y'all don't want DEI, cool. Give folk an equal shot. But most of you white racists, especially all y'all on Fox News, y'all know the game, and you know it ain't an equal shot. Randy Bryant, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, we come back. A math program using hip-hop lyrics to get kids learning math. Damn! Y'all about 45 years late for me. That's next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
This is Reggie Rock Pfeiffer. You're watching
Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
All right, folks, it's an innovative curriculum that connects hip-hop culture with math. Lyrical Math is a research-based, data-proven intervention program that builds students' confidence and mastery of numbers. Lyrical Math uses hip-hop music to enhance basic math skill performance. Joining us now from Wilmington, Delaware, creators of Lyrical Math, Keziah and James Finney. Hey, folks, how y'all doing?
How you doing?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize is that when you think about, and why is it escaping me? Charter school. My goodness, it's gonna come to me in a second. Anyway, I'm gonna bring it.
Take your time.
This charter network, it got created because one of the co-founders heard all these black kids across the hall cheering and making all this noise, and he was like, "What the hell's going on?" And the black woman, her name was Harriet. I'm gonna pull up in a second. She was actually using music to teach these kids.
Come on now, that's right.
Education, and that literally forms the basis of this charter network. So this is, I mean, you utilize what you have to do. How did this start for y'all? What was the light switch that came on? What was it?
Great question.
Yeah,
you mind if I take this?
Go ahead.
All right, so basically, I was in my undergrad, which was studio production, digital filmmaking, and I had to do a senior project. And so I was going to do a documentary, and then she was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Do a math video. I said, math is boring. I mean, if we're going to do it, it got to be funny. So we made a comedic math video. It was 5 minutes and 20 seconds of her rapping. Actually, she was teaching a student who was just checked out. We went over top. She was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Sleeping in class,
all that.
The whole nine.
And so then at the end of the video, the teacher said, well, let me try it this way. And she rapped the lyrics.
Right.
And then she played the student, and she was like, oh, I'm getting it. And then she got it. It was called Adding Integers After School.
Right.
And so you were teaching at Chester Community Charter?
Right. Chester Community Charter in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm.
And so then she said, do you mind if I use your video? Because I'm teaching integers to my group of students on Monday. So what happened?
So I created a pre-test and a post-test for adding integers. Gave them the pre-test and then let them watch the 5-minute video, and then gave them the post-test.
The data was crazy, Roland.
Was so crazy.
Like her worst class had a 61.7% increase in comprehension for adding.
Wow.
Yes.
Off of 5 minutes.
Yes. 5 minutes.
Okay.
So then
how? I mean, like, what explains that?
So music is a powerful recall tool, and so
absolutely.
In this particular case, we're talking about adding integers. It's simply 2 rules to adding integers, right? And so if the signs are the same, keep it, add that. If they're different, take the bigger one, subtract that. And so, I rapped the lyrics in the video, and then the students that were in my class, they were rapping the lyrics, and then I gave them the post test. They used the lyrics, and they passed the test.
Right.
And so, this was something I was doing in the classroom anyway. I was always, trying to keep the engagement with my students by teaching them through hip hop music.
Right.
And so by doing that, I was creating my own lyrics. The students, they were more engaged. I had a lot more fun. Classroom was just live. But once he used that as a senior project, and then we took the data, we looked at the data, it was like, wait a minute, hold on.
So look, that night, I literally said to her that night, Roland, I said, how many people you want to help? And she said, as many people as we can.
Right.
And that's how we began creating lyrical math to where it is today.
And again, it was. I mean, that is unique. I remember when Reverend Jeremiah Wright spoke at the Detroit NAACP Freedom Fund dinner in 2008. In his speech, he talked about how different Black people learn. Some are auditory, some learn
kinesthetic,
some learn based upon reading. So, for instance, my wife and I were raising my twin nieces. And what's crazy is that they're twins, but one of them, she learned better hearing. The other learned better her reading. And so one of the problems is that we don't actually assess how each child learns. And so we're just teaching one way and figure it out.
You're talking about the multiple intelligences. Yes, absolutely.
And that is a huge problem that we're seeing in America education. Like that.
Talk to him, Miss Finney. Talk to him. Go ahead.
I know you already know. So that's just a big problem. Like there's the large amount of teachers are teaching a traditional style.
Yes.
Right. But considering the level of engagement that our students have, our children have, just with social media, the impact of music, you have to meet these students where they are.
Yes.
And if music is a way to reach them, you should use it.
Absolutely.
If engagement is a way to reach them, you should use higher levels of engagement. And so, what we did, we created this curriculum where we not only use music, but we also have culturally relevant pedagogy that we're applying to lyrical math. And so it's fun, it's engaging.
I was going to say it's innovative. Absolutely. We literally intertwine hip hop culture with math. For one, we know hip hop culture is like the #1 genre in the world.
Right.
And for two, the science behind it is it promotes confidence.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having kids talking about I'm this, I'm that, faking it till you make it, you could talk about how dope you are with math and actually be dope
with math. Yeah.
And she got bars though, Roland. Like it's not corny. It's radio ready. You know what I mean? So here's a student workbook if we could show you. So
this doesn't look like a typical math book, does it?
No, not at all. So that's the lyrics page right there.
The hell? I'm telling you right now, I never knew what the hell they were doing in math. Listen, I told my teachers, listen, I can count money, I can negotiate. Listen, I talked my way into a passing math grade in college. My verbal intellectual skills talked me into that grade. And I told them point blank, I said, say, man, listen, I said, look, I know how to count. I said, I know how to negotiate. I understand contracts. I said, but damn all this Pythagorean's theorem. I said, man, I ain't none of this stuff clicking in my head. And trust me, I've been proven right. Before I go to my panel, it was escaping me. Harriet Ball, she was actually at KIPP. And that's actually how, what you see right here. She says right here, she died of a heart attack in 2011. She was 64 years old. And this is the Washington Post obit. She trained the KIPP co-founders, David Levitt and Mike Feinberg, when they were novice members of the Teach for America program. She gave them a host of original songs, chants, and games to encourage learning. They took the name of their network from her most popular chant, which was, you gotta read, baby, read. You gotta read, baby, read. The more you read, the more you know, because knowledge is power, power is money, and I want it. And knowledge is power, that's the name KIPP. Come on. And so that's, and so her method was using, what y'all talking about, her method of using music, that is the basis of the teaching curriculum of all KIPP charter schools. Let's question from the panelists. Let's see here. Michael claims he was highly successful at math in school. I still think he lying, but go ahead.
Let's go, Mike.
Come on, Mike.
He obviously can't run a damn computer because his ass is on mute. See, that's the problem right there. He think he was so good at math, he don't know.
Hold on, Roland.
It's your computer. Hit the damn button. I can't control your mute button.
He was just spitting formulas on
I'm running through a 12-channel mix, Roland. No, I'm unmuted.
Well, you might have 12 channels, but you didn't have one turned on.
It's unmuted. I unmuted it. Okay. So, question for you. Now, I went up to pre-calculus in high school, and then I took calculus in college. But how far do you go with the math? So I know you're a middle school teacher now, Kazia. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Kazia.
I'm sorry, Kazia. So do you do like trigonometry, calculus, geometry with your rap lyrics also?
So basically, our math skills for lyrical math, we have a part 1 and a part 2. We cover math standards from 3rd through 8th grade. And so our goal is to address basic math skills. Our goal is to address basic math skills. And so we start off with multiplication and division, and then we jump into fractions, integers, geometry, conversions of length, volume.
Give us some bars. Give us something.
Give us some bars.
Okay, so here's something for adding fractions. You ready? I'm going to slow this down. I got to add these fractions. Break it down. Let me show them what's happening. Hold up. Let me make sure they had the same denominators. Then I'm going to get right back to adding. But I got to add these fractions. Break it down. Let me show them what's happening. Hold up. Let me make sure they had the same denominators. Then I'm going to get right back to adding. Oh, anytime my denominator's different, I'm looking for that LCM till I get it. Turn my LCM into my denominator. Make equivalent fractions to get my numerators. I take my numerators, then I add them up. I take my numerators, then I add them up. Keep my denominator as my LCM. Keep my denominator as my LCM. When I get my sum, I make it hotter than the summer. Blazing through this work, the more I work, the more I come up. I'm adding fractions, this is something that I breeze through. Check my answer simplified if I need to. I gotta add these fractions.
Break it down, let me show them what's happening. Hold up.
Let me make sure they had the same denominators, then I'm going to get right back to adding.
All right. Show your skills, okay. Kelly.
First of all, that was amazing.
Thank you.
My question is, I wasn't terrible at math. It wasn't my favorite subject, but I was good at it. But my core thing was music, right? I come from a family of musicians. I sing myself, all of those things. And one thing that was actually drilled into my head is not just that math is music, but music is math. So my question to you is, are there opportunities that you have, or have you done anything in conjunction with music courses and fractions, because we've got, time signatures, we've got circle of fifths, we've got, key changes and the like. All of that requires math.
Right.
Interesting. Because you use all of those concepts in your music for math.
Right.
I'm just curious if you branch out beyond that and incorporate actual music classes in what you do.
Not as of yet.
Yeah,
so we are solely focused at this point. Now, I have made songs for science because I'm also a certified science teacher. But right now we're focused so much on math, mainly because it's such an issue right now. I mean, the lack of comprehension that we have for basic math skills is scary.
Across the country.
Mm-hmm. And so, not only did we previously have just general summer learning loss, but then now we have the pandemic learning loss on top of it. So you have a lot of students that are, say, in 5th grade, but they're actually 2 to 3 grade levels behind. Yep. They're in 5th grade, and a lot of students are getting pushed along and pushed ahead, even though they actually are not mastering the skills.
So talk about it. What does that look like?
So what that looks like is you have students that probably are coming. A lot of students are coming home right now and they're on honor roll, and their parents are excited. They go to the honor roll assembly. They're like, "That's my baby."
All right.
And everybody's excited. A 5th grade child just got honor roll, but that 5th grade child might not be on grade level.
Correct.
Might not be on grade level. And we're in a lot of schools where that is the case. We had a group of 5th graders where about 90% of the class was actually on 2nd or 3rd grade level.
Right.
But those kids were getting honor roll.
Because they were teaching them on
the 2nd or 3rd grade level. Like, hey, if I give you a test and you pass it, then technically you have an A, right, on that test. But that's not necessarily saying that you have an A on a 5th grade level.
Correct.
Do you get what I'm saying? And so we're just very focused right now on closing this huge academic achievement gap. And in our community, even beyond our community, it's just a huge issue. And, it's going to catch up with society in a way that is going to be extremely alarming. It's already alarming.
Right.
So right now we're focused on math.
Education needs a win in a major way. And so we need teachers like Miss Finney that break the mold. You know what I mean? To change the narrative, to get students engaged and excited about learning. Right. And she got the tools in her arsenal to do it. So that's why I'm rocking with her.
Matt, what's your question?
So I had to go last because I wanted to tell y'all the whole segment. Y'all have the dopest energy by far. Just so I mean, y'all are just a beautiful couple, and it's dope how you support each other. And first off, kudos for that. But nonetheless, my question is, do you have a product? So like, I'm not anywhere near Delaware. I would love my children to be able to use this. Do you have a way we can access that? I don't know if we talked about the
he just put the plug. Beautiful. Thank you.
That question?
So we've been in lyrical math for 8 years now. We've built it up to where it is currently. It took 8 years to do so. In the process of doing that, we finally made it available for households, right? So we have the Lyrical Math Online Academy. You get the yearly subscription, and it comes with this one-of-a-kind student workbook.
Right.
You get it mailed to your house, and then you get a username and password that child will log in and learn from Miss Finney on demand.
Right.
It's having a Michael Jordan of lyrical math in your household.
Right.
On demand. What you call it? The Netflix of math?
It's like the Netflix of math.
Pretty much.
And so basically, you can be home and you can have your child, say you're making dinner, right? And you're like, I need you to work on some math problems just to brush up on your basic math skills. I don't want to sit here and teach you math. I don't even know how they're teaching math right now. Right. But I know Mrs. Finney knows how to teach you math through lyrical math. So, hey, grab your student workbook, your lyrical math student workbook.
There you go.
I want you to crack it open, right? I want you to do lesson 7, worksheet number 1 today. They go to the platform, they pull it up. And listen, you can pull this up right on your cell phone.
Yeah.
Right on your cell phone. Like right now, check this out. Can you see this? This is our platform right here. So, even with just a cell phone, check that out.
So
and then
you
push
click
play.
here, Yep.
That's page what? What's it say? 162?
And y'all, she got the personality. She goofy. She silly. The kids are going to learn the math. Look, she takes the intimidation out of numbers.
Go ahead, hype man.
Who she is.
Go ahead, hype man.
But look, this is
give him a raise. Give him a raise.
Right, you
right?
know?
Thank you, Roland. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, I want y'all pull the graphic up again. I want y'all to know how to access. So this is social media right here. Lyrical Math on Facebook, at Lyrical Math on Twitter and Instagram. The website is lyricalmath.com.
Yes. Also, lyricalmathonline.com.
Yes.
Lyrical Math is lyricalmath.com and lyricalmathonline.com?
Yeah, lyricalmathonline.com is the academy. Yes.
Gotcha. What's lyricalmath.com?
That's our headquarters site.
All right, cool. All right, so you got two. Lyricalmath.com, lyricalmathonline.com.
Got it.
All right, Keziah and James, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your work and all that you do.
I appreciate it. All right. Folks, that's it for us. Let me thank Michael, Kelly, and Matt. I certainly appreciate y'all joining us on today's show. Thank you so very much. Michael, learn how to hit the mute button. If you're on mute, turn it back on.
Roland.
It's
delayed. I did unmute it.
No. There was no delay, Mike. Michael, you were talking, and we literally saw your lips moving and could not hear you. So
there was a delay. It was unmuted.
Right. Okay.
Signals know how to work technology.
Well, you damn sure wasn't a good example. I'm just saying. All right, well, Kelly, why you over there sighing?
We know how.
Y'all got it.
Also, A. Philip Randolph was a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I didn't get a chance.
Why? We were so close.
When Randy Bryant mentioned A. Philip Randolph, but just so people know, he was a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
Yeah, but it needed that alpha to pull that March of Washington off.
We were so close.
I don't know why.
March of Washington was originally A. Philip Randolph's idea.
Guess what? It's a whole bunch of people have an idea, but they can't. But they didn't pull it off.
Well, he got Executive Order 8802 put in place by President Roosevelt to desegregate jobs in the Department of Defense for African Americans, which is why he called off the March on Washington the day before it was signed. That was June 1941.
And thank goodness for them lawsuits filed by that alpha man, Thurgood Marshall. But you ain't gonna win this one. I mean, you ain't gonna win it, but just go ahead. But look, y'all got one or two.
Let the record show.
Y'all got one or two.
Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
Yeah, y'all got one or two, so that's the only hat you can hang it on. All right, that's it. Appreciate it. Yeah, enough chit chat. All right, Matt, Kelly, Michael, thanks a bunch. Let me shout out my Jack Hayes High School. Y'all see I'm rocking my JY colors, and there's no coincidence that that's the colors of the show, because these colors of my high school. So, and in case y'all didn't understand that I knew where I was gonna be today, this literally was what they used to call me in high school. Y'all see that? That says Mr. TV. Just so y'all know, I was way ahead of the curve. All right, that's it, folks. Support us in what we do. Join the Bring the Funk fan club. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can also, of course, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can check our 24-hour streaming channel out. We're available on Amazon News. By going to Amazon Fire, you can tell Alexa to play news from the Black Star Network. Also, we're on Plex TV, Amazon Freevee, Amazon Prime Video. And be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version on Audible. Y'all have a fantastic weekend. Good luck watching March Madness. Go South Carolina and Dawn Staley. Hope y'all have a great finish and finish undefeated and win the national championship. We got to bounce. Holla!